Welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into the Book of Wisdom. It's a really compelling piece of writing.
It really is. And the context is fascinating, isn't it? We're talking about something written maybe 50 years before Christ.
Right, in Alexandria, Egypt. And not in Hebrew, surprisingly.
Exactly. It was written in Greek, but the author, likely a very knowledgeable Jewish figure there,
Mm-hmm.
shaped the Greek to sort of echo the rhythm and feel of Hebrew scripture. Quite a stylistic choice.
So, like, trying to bridge worlds almost.
Mm,
Reaching a Greek-speaking audience, but keeping that traditional feel.
precisely. Think of someone like, well, perhaps like Ben Sira, deeply familiar with the Old Testament tradition.
Okay, and writing at a specific time for a specific reason.
Definitely. It seems the main purpose was to, uplift and encourage fellow Jews. They were facing some tough times.
Suffering and oppression. And you mentioned part of that was even internal, from apostate Jews.
Yeah, that adds another layer, doesn't it?
That.
External pressures and internal divisions. So the author needed strong themes.
And what were those core themes they leaned on?
Well, divine wisdom is central. Huge theme. Then there's the Exodus narrative, of course.
Always foundational.
Always. Plus God's mercy, the sheer folly of idolatry, and this bedrock idea of divine justice.
Okay, divine justice. Let's hold on to that. Now, you mentioned something really interesting earlier about the first 10 chapters.
Yes. They're surprisingly, well, foundational is the right word. You find ideas there that really resonate with Jesus's later teachings.
And New Testament theology in general.
Absolutely. That idea of divine wisdom as this active guiding force, it's not just intellect. You see echoes of that in how Christ is portrayed.
Wow. And it even made its way into church liturgy.
It did. Passages like Wisdom 3.1 at 8, for instance, they've had a long liturgical life, which speaks volumes about their impact.
So the book itself has a structure we should probably outline.
Right. So it's often divided into a few parts. What we're really focusing on today is the first main section, chapters 1 through 6.21. It's often called the Reward of Righteousness.
The reward of righteousness.
Okay.
And just briefly, what comes after that?
After that, you get a section praising wisdom, attributed traditionally to Solomon. That's 6.22 to 11.1.
Got it.
And then a long section on God's specific actions, his providence during the Exodus. It spans several chapters with some interesting digressions.
Digressions, like what?
Well, there are parts exploring God's mercy in more detail and really hammering home the critique of idolatry, its folly and shame.
Okay, quite a bit there. But for this deep dive, our mission is clear. Understand that first section, the reward of righteousness.
Exactly. What's the core message there?
Yeah.
Especially given the context of suffering we talked about.
It seems aimed at offering hope, doesn't it? Focusing on justice.
Very much so. What jumped out is this stark contrast the author draws. The destiny of the righteous versus the wicked.
Is it about like immediate rewards,
Yeah.
good things happening right now if you're righteous?
Not necessarily. That's the crucial part. It acknowledges the righteous might face trials, real suffering now. But the ultimate reward, the true vindication, lies with God.
Ah, so it's shifting the perspective away from the immediate, the earthly, towards something bigger, more eternal.
Precisely. It's a message designed to sustain hope beyond present difficulties. Don't lose heart, essentially.
And does it talk about the flip side, the consequences for not being righteous?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The author is quite clear about the consequences of rejecting wisdom and righteousness. It's presented not so much as, divine anger, but as the almost logical outcome of choosing that path.
Interesting. Was this focus on a future reward, this kind of ultimate justice, something everyone agreed on back then? Or was it a particular viewpoint?
That's a great point. There were likely varying ideas, but for a community feeling oppressed, this specific message of eventual divine justice would have been incredibly powerful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it gives meaning to their struggles, a framework almost, and the promise that in the end, things will be set right.
Right. It's comfort, but it's also a moral compass.
Yeah.
Stay faithful, it argues, even when it's hard, even when others are straying.
So looking at this ancient text today, what's the key insight for us?
Well, I think it shows how these fundamental questions about justice, about suffering, about what truly matters, they're not new. They're deeply human and have been for millennia.
True. People have always grappled with this.
Exactly. The author of Wisdom was tackling these timeless anxieties. And by grounding the answers in tradition, in divine wisdom, they created this message of resilience. It worked then, and, it still offers a perspective now.
So wrapping up our look at the start of the Book of Wisdom, that first section, the reward of righteousness. It really hammers home divine justice.
hmm And the ultimate reward for living justly. It was clearly written to give hope and guidance in a pretty dark time.
And for you listening, maybe wanting quick but thorough insights, well, this ancient text offers a really foundational view on themes still relevant today: justice, faith, enduring hardship.
Absolutely. It connects across the centuries.
So here's a thought to leave you with. Thinking about that original audience, facing those specific challenges, how might this message, this promise of righteousness being ultimately rewarded, have truly given them solace and maybe even a clear path forward in their lives? Something to consider until our next deep dive.